I discovered the meaning of life when I was 6 years old. For the past year, I'd lived, breathed, and dreamed Pokemon. The games, the anime, the trading cards, and now there was a movie coming out with a special Pikachu card. Holy crap. This movie was the reason I was born. So I decided to revisit it more than 20 years later and found a movie even better than I remember. Apparently, the gods decided that this movie was so good that my tiny little brain would have exploded right then and there, so they switched it with something kind of lame. I'm grateful, but I need to tell you about the absolute masterpiece that is the Japanese version of Pokemon the first movie. This is a story about love, about loss, and of one Pokemon's long journey to become human. And also this.
Hey, Sokuno boy, you got badge Hachiko getsta Masarata no Satoshi sono hito kana?
Why am I making this video again? Our story starts, as many do, with a few simple men and the humble sin of curiosity. The sin of searching to discover the unknown, leading down the dark road of playing God, of trying to bring light the secret of life itself, and of pushing the boundaries of science to create the strongest Pokemon to have ever existed. They succeed. It awakens, as all lives do, a child opening his eyes and gazing upon the world with wonder and curiosity. Where am I? Who am I? Why am I here? He asks. His story is the journey of these questions. He a traveler, his life the quest for the key to his own existence, as each person he meets presents him with a different answer. The first of many is a small girl, Ai, to whom he asks the question, am I human? She doesn't know, but she knows that they are alike. He like her, and she like him. So he must be human, or perhaps she could be Pokemon. But what difference could it make? They're the same as all others around them. Who? The other clones, of course. There are 5 of them. Bulbasaur 2, Squirtle 2, Charmander 2, our hero, Mewtwo, and the girl, I2. I2 is the clone of a scientist's daughter, her fragile consciousness drifting around the ethereal realm as he strives to bring his child back to life. Day in and day out, he slaves over his work, searching for a way to bring his daughter back to him. His wife leaves him, unable to stand seeing him like this, unwilling to spend her life buried in old, forgotten memories. She bids him farewell as he sits there, staring at his work. He alone presses on, cloning Pokemon after Pokemon so that one day he may uncover the secret to life itself, eventually cloning the mightiest Pokemon of them all, Mew. His experiments all end in failure as one by one, each clone loses its faint grip on life. All save for one, Mewtwo, who can only sit there and watch as each of his friends slowly fades into eternity, leaving him, like the scientist, alone. Tears well up in his eyes. Something's wrong with my eyes, he says to Ai, who tells him that animals don't cry when they feel pain. Only humans do. But don't worry, there's nothing to cry about, because you're alive, and what a wonderful thing that must be. Mewtwo, for the first time in his life, experiences the quiet pain of loneliness, and as his living body echoes the suffering of his mind, the scientist puts him to sleep, and he gently falls into a deep slumber. And there he remains for many years, as his past and his friends slowly become nothing more than a distant memory. And as he, in his slumber, forgets Ai and the world around him, so too does the scientist, consumed no longer by love but by his work, by curiosity, by the power to create life, delving further and further into his research until one day, Mewtwo awakens once again. And for the second time, his newly awakened mind is haunted by the questions: who am I? What am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? The scientist, standing tall in front of his proudest accomplishment, tells him about Mew. Mew, he asks the scientist, is that my mother, my father, or perhaps Mew is God? And the scientist turns to him and tells him that the only beings in the universe capable of creating life are humans and God, and that he is the greatest achievement in the history of man. Again, Mewtwo prods the mind of the scientist, but the scientist has already lost interest in speaking to him, only seeing him as an object of research, of power, having long forgotten his daughter's love and his quest for the secret of life itself. Confused and angry, Mewtwo breaks free of his shackles, tearing them apart along with the lab and all inside it. None survive. As Mewtwo stands there amongst the flames, on this island at the edge of the sea, once again, he questions his place in the world. And this time, the universe responds, sending him the leader of the criminal organization Team Rocket, Giovanni. Giovanni, unafraid of Mewtwo's terrible power, looks him in the eye and talks to him face to face, man to man. Unlike the scientist, Giovanni recognizes him as an individual, validates his existence as a person. Still searching for purpose, Mewtwo looks to Giovanni, who merely tells him to do as all other life on this planet has done before him, to go forth and conquer, to use his power for money and bitches. For what else is life worth living? But eventually, Mewtwo comes to see the vileness of Giovanni, who, despite everything, can only see him as another Pokemon, a weapon, another source of power. Mewtwo, sick of humanity, looks to himself, looks to the other Pokemon, and once again considers his own existence. Not quite man, yet not quite Pokemon. And he considers that he, Mewtwo, is not just stronger than any other Pokemon, but morally superior to the ruling class of the world, these humans. And if he is a copy, unlike all other life yet superior to it, then maybe, just maybe, he is, in fact, a purer form of life. Mewtwo takes off to a remote island to finish the scientist's work, to create his own race of cloned super Pokemon, to question his own power and his own existence as the world's most superior life form. Because if he can take these copies and prove them truly superior, then he, as god of copies, alone has the right to rule the world. Because if only men and gods can create life, and he has no man, then who is he, standing there among his new race of Pokemon, but a god? And this is where the opening sequence with the girl becomes important, because the first copies he makes are Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander. He says it's because they are the starter Pokemon, and that's true, but they were also his friends. And him starting with them instead of, say, a Pikachu, betrays his own heart, betrays his own humanity. And it's this humanity that throws a wrench into the equation that makes him see himself as not like the other Pokemon. Because what this taught him is that there are others like him, that he is not, in fact, unique. It's this experience that allows him to separate himself from these other Pokemon, to see himself among the world of humans and Pokemon, but apart from it at the exact same time. If he never had these human emotions, this humanity, this might not have happened. He might have just remained a weapon for Giovanni, content with simply being a Pokemon. So on this island, he takes this philosophy, this question of superiority, and puts it to action as he sends an invitation, a challenge to all of the world's strongest Pokemon trainers. Their destination lies across the ocean, on a remote island surrounded by violent storms over the raging sea. But these are no mere mortals. These are Pokemon trainers, adventurers. This isn't a joke. This is literally just what Officer Jenny says. Pokemon no sekai e yokoso! And to think that a mere storm, to think something so trivial as risking your life would deter them from attending the largest, greatest Pokemon super orgy ever held is the laughable ignorance of the weak and cowardly. On this island, having collected the strongest of the strong, Mewtwo clones all of these Pokemon and makes them fight in a contest of clone versus original to determine which one is superior, to determine which one is the true Pokemon, to determine if he really does have the right to rule the world. It's this horrible spectacle of meaningless violence, of cold cruelty. But there are Pokemon that refuse to fight. The Meowth, the only other human-like Pokemon, put down their claws, questioning what the point of fighting even is. Meowth, like Mewtwo, is able to exist in both worlds at once, but unlike Mewtwo, has the experience to understand the feelings shared between all living beings. The feeling of being alive, because what a wonderful thing that must be. And it's a humble irony that the lowly Meowth, the lowest of the Team Rocket grunts, is the link between Mewtwo and the world, between Mewtwo and his humanity. It's humans that cause this fighting and this violence that set Mewtwo down this path of destruction, but it's humanity that puts an end to it. And it's the weakest trainer of them all that takes this humanity and with it sacrifices his own life to put an end to this madness, this meaningless violence, jumping in front of Mewtwo's relentless attacks and turning to stone. Every Pokemon stops fighting to look upon this brave act of sacrifice, and Mewtwo watches as the Pokemon around him shed tears for this brave little boy. First, the boy's own Pikachu, but the rest soon follow. And seeing these Pokemon shedding tears for this human, upon seeing this spectacle of humanity, Mewtwo finally understands his own. He realizes that what really matters is life itself, and the beautiful thing about life is not where it comes from, but what it chooses to do with the life it is given. And so, taking one last look at the island, at his actions and his mistakes, Mewtwo takes his Pokemon and leaves, telling all that he and his Pokemon were born into the world, and so they too will live on, somewhere. Because they're alive, and what a wonderful thing that must be. So, if you're like, wait a second, this isn't, exactly how I remember this movie happening, you'd be right, it's not, because they went and changed a lot when it came to the West. All of this existentialism, all this towing the line between human and Pokemon just does not exist in English. Instead, Mewtwo is this bland and generic villain motivated by revenge and disgust at humans. First, you may or may not remember that prologue with the girl, Ai. That wasn't part of the original movie. Actually, it wasn't even part of the original Japanese movie, but they added it in basically right after. And when it came to the West, that was just left out, even when it left theaters and came to VHS. Instead, we got this short called Pikachu's Vacation, a fun little romp set to vitamin C? Is that right? Oh my god, I'm old. So here, when Mewtwo asks Ai in the beginning, am I human? And she tells him that he could be. That's the start of this. That's the seed of this question. If she had just told him, you're a Pokemon, then he would have never gone down this path, this deep search for identity, and would have just accepted himself for what he is. How do I know this? Because that's what happens in English. In English, Ai tells him that he's not like her, but she doesn't care. That is literally the exact opposite. And when he wakes up in the laboratory, only in Japanese does the scientist tell him that the only ones with the power to create life are humans and God. And why is this important? Right, because he then goes on to make clones to create life. This is never directly stated, but when he realizes he has the power to create life, and then realizes that he isn't human, the implication is that he comes to see himself as some sort of god. And it's the perspective that he gains from being not quite Pokemon, but not quite human that justifies this worldview. He has power, more power than literally anyone, but it's context that gives this power meaning. And so what the English does is completely strip all of this context from his character. Now, I want to take a sec to stop you before you start getting angry and leaving comments like, ooh, localization bad, ooh, 4Kids bad, because this is very much not what I want you to take away from this video. So let's stop and think about this rationally for a second. Weebs often seem to think of localization as somehow disrespecting Japanese language and our culture, which is a weird thing to do when you don't speak Japanese. But there's always a reason for it, and just throwing it under the label of localization isn't going to get us anywhere. They aren't disrespecting Japanese culture, they're disrespecting American kids. So, Two things. One, if anyone says, well, wait a second, American kids aren't stupider than Japanese kids, really think about that statement for a second. And if you're American, spend slightly longer thinking about it. But also, they were kind of right. We only care about any of this shit in hindsight as adults who are very much not the target for this movie and this anime. Sure, shit like the jelly donuts thing is really silly.
丸いのは梅干し、三角のは昆布だぞ。
And there's probably some sick irony in the fact that they censored out guns for the American audience. But did any of that really matter? Does it really matter what kind of snack they spend 10 seconds eating? Pokemon was a smash hit because they managed to keep everything that did matter. Would it have been more successful if they didn't meddle with it? Maybe. But probably not. If anything, they did make it more appealing to kids. Because the other thing is that, and this is the thing weebs tend to forget, Pokemon, isn't great. People always talk about, ooh, jelly donuts, haha, Japan doesn't exist. But let's take a look at some of the other localization choices. First, ever seen the Squirtle Squad episode? They capture Misty and, in English, threaten Ash that they'll turn her into a clown. In Japanese, they threaten to fucking execute her. That's a little dark. Remember, this is the episode where the Squirtle turn out to be these rampaging little delinquents and redeem themselves by becoming the town firefighting squad. This is not some edgy Yakuza drama, bro. This is a children's cartoon where nothing of consequence ever happens, and every episode ends with a happy ending returning to the status quo. Why the fuck are they threatening to execute her? Like, really now? For anyone who actually watched this as a kid, what do you really remember? Probably, more than anything, the theme song and Team Rocket's speech. Sure, partly because they're played every episode, but because of that, they are the most important things to get right. And they fucking nailed both of these things. Fucking nailed. I can't play the theme song here, but it's just straight up iconic. It's a million times better than the Japanese theme song. It's not a debate. 4Kids made Pokemon way cooler than it ever would have been if they'd just left it alone. So what exactly is my point here? I guess that Pokemon is kind of shit, and has always been kind of shit. It's just kind of a weird coincidence that it was ever good. Look at Japan, they don't give a shit. They put Pokemon on everything. It's just an infinite money glitch they happen to accidentally stumble upon. Look at this. Fucking look at this. This is the pillow I sleep on at night. I sleep on a fucking Lizardon pillow. I went to the Pokemon Cafe in Osaka with my friend. We each had a drink and a meal and shared a dessert. We paid well over $100 for it. What the fuck? It was so expensive. Do I regret it? Fuck no. That Pikachu butt cake was awesome. And that's kind of my point. Even I'll pay out the ass for this shit. Why would I do that? What the fuck would possess me to do that? What are we all doing? What are you doing? You're sitting here listening to some idiot rant about a 25-year-old children's movie just because it's kind of good. What the fuck? It's an existential crisis that can only be resolved by watching this video about how Pokemon has been lying to us all this entire time, obviously starring me, but made by my friend, an actual YouTuber imported cheese.